Hi there. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how to add teleporters into your levels. What I'm going to do is open our base file, locate it in chapter 5 here, just teleports underscore base. And now once we get this loaded up, you'll see that we have 4 rooms in front of us. We have a start point and an end point. And basically what I want to do here is basically make 4 teleporters that will take you to, say, the first room to the second room, the second to the third, and the third to the fourth, and finally the fourth to the first, if you wanted to go back to the very start. So what I'm going to do is start by adding my teleporters, and how we do this is we go over to our library panel, click on entities, and then click on new entity. By default, the teleporters are located in sci-fi underneath scenery and then finally in teleport. What I'm going to do is select this teleport in to start off with. So I'm just going to say OK to add it to our library. And I'm going to start off by just left clicking in 4 different places to add these teleporters. I'm going to put them by the window just so it's easier to see here. So I'm just going to left click in 4 different places. And now that I have my 4 teleporters, I'm just going to right click to remove the teleporter from my cursor here. And now by default I'm in entity editing mode. If you're not in this mode, you can press N on your keyboard or come up to your toolbar and click this button here. But basically what I want to do is go into the properties of each of these teleporters and change some of the properties. So I'm going to right click on the first one here, and you'll see that if used property basically says teleporter out. So this basically means whenever the player walks over this teleporter, it's going to look for an entity or an item that is called teleporter out. Now because I have 4 different teleporters, I of course am going to have to name 4 different teleport outs, I should say. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to take this name and just name it out number 1 and say apply changes. And of course I'm going to do this to our second one, naming it out number 2, our third one and fourth one, and so on. So just bear with me here. You can do this as we follow along. And finally I'm going to do our last one here. Let's name this one out 4. Now that we have basically set up our teleporters where the player will step in, we need to add the teleporters where the player will come out of. So what we have to do is go back over to our library, and of course in our entity tab, click on add new entity. Again, under sci-fi and scenery, underneath teleport, we want to use teleport out. So I'm going to say OK to add this to our library. Now one thing before you start placing the teleporters down is you have to remember, depending on how it's rotated, this is where your player is going to come out. So by default, if I were to say left click this teleport out entity right now, the player would basically come from the first level here, go over to the second room, but he would be pointing up. So what I want to do is press R to rotate this entity 45 degrees. So I'm going to do this twice, so that will basically make it so when he teleports out of the first room, he will be facing the correct way when he comes into the second room. So I'm going to go ahead and press R twice, and I'm just going to lay this down. And again, thinking further ahead, because we don't want to be facing to the right, I'm going to have to press R again twice. Now currently the player would be facing down, so if I press R again twice, he'd be facing to the left, and then finally R twice again, and that will make the fireplace up. And once again, we're going to have to basically press R 6 more times to make the player face the right way. I'm just going to left click, and then finally 6 more times to get the player basically to face down when he comes out. There's no real trick or anything to get this down, you just have to do it by memory. Okay, so once we have that done, I just right click to get the last teleporter off my cursor, Again, I am in entity editing mode, so I'm going to go over to your first teleporter out here and right click to view its properties. Now you'll remember a while back we set the if used to our teleporters as out 1, out 2, out 3, out 4. So what we're going to have to do is name these teleporters out 1, out 2, out 3, out 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And how I'm doing this is basically they're just going to go from left to right, up, down, and basically in a circle here. So I'm going to name this one out 2, and this one on the left is going to be, of course, out 3. And finally, for some reason, if the player wants to go in a complete circle, I'm going to have this one as out 4. Now what you could do is you could have multiple teleporter ins all go to the same teleporter out. So let's pretend we made 5 different teleporter ins in 5 different locations. They could all teleport out to, say, out 4 or out 1. We would just have to make sure in each teleporter in, underneath the properties, that every single one had the if used item named the same. I'm just going ahead and cancel out of this because basically our level is complete here. So I'm just going to save this for you. It's going to be saved under, of course, chapter 5 in teleport_single. So you can refer to this at any time if you need it.